Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Carla Babb, VOA's Pentagon correspondent. It's been 20 years, that's right, 20 years this week, since the United States launched a military campaign in Afghanistan in response to the September 11th terrorist attacks. Honduras is one of the most violent countries in the world. Troops will take these helicopters out to cities that are riddled with gang violence and killings, things that give the locals plenty of reasons to leave. Let me go back to the withdrawal. In April, the intelligence was showing that the Taliban could likely take over Kabul around December, late December. But by July, that timeline had shrunk to late September. So why were you so surprised when they took over in mid-August?
A U.S. official has told VOA that there's an investigation currently underway about multiple civilian deaths when a C-17 took off from the airport. What more can you tell us about that investigation, and can you confirm the number of deaths?
I can't confirm that reporting, Carla, so I mean you're getting information that I don't have.
As you saw with this recent attack, I was getting word from the start. VOA was actually the first to come out and say that al-Assad was under attack.
Welcome back to the United States, Carla.
Thank you. Good to be back. Because it's not just Burkina Faso's problem. It's not just Niger's or Mali's problem. These terrorists are spilling across the borders, putting more people in to protect these oil fields. Are there going to be more troops now in Syria than there were before?
My expectation is that it'll be fewer than what we had before, and they will be going home.
The country is battling an insurgency of several Al-Qaeda-linked groups. I spoke to one Burkinabe officer, and he told me the insurgency was like a toxin to his country. The U.S. ambassador to Burkina Faso, Andrew Young, told VOA the threat was getting worse. And I spoke with Major General Marcus Hicks. He's the commander of Special Operations Forces on the continent, and he was very frank about the counter-terror war in West Africa.
I would tell you at this time we are not winning.
I feel like I have to be a voice for the American citizens that are left behind.
That's Nasria. She's one of the 100 to 200 Americans trapped in Afghanistan after the American evacuation efforts ended on August 30th. She asked we only use her first name for her safety. She spoke exclusively to VOA, telling me she's terrified and traumatized.
There's been days where, I think to myself, like, am I going to make it home? Am I going to end up living here? Am I going to end up dying here? What's going to happen?
25-year-old California native Nasria came to the Afghan capital in June to visit family and marry her longtime boyfriend. She and her new husband fled to the airport after the Taliban took control, but they never made it in.
It was so hard to just get on a flight. There was a couple of days where we had to sleep on streets. People were literally stepping over people. That's how bad it was.
After her booked flight home was canceled amid the chaos, she reached out to the State Department for help.
They told us, go to a certain location, you will be picked up. And this is from the State Department. You will get picked up, go there. And it was in the middle of the road across the airport. So we went there, waited an extra 12 to 13 hours with no food, no water, nothing.
She'd wave her passport.
They won't let us go. They're gassing us and they're shooting at us.
But day and night, the Taliban kept blocking her.
I got gun pointed to my head. Our troops were literally at the gate, just waiting for us to continue walking. And they had blocked us. And there was a time where, I went past them and I started walking as fast as I can. And they started shooting right by my leg and told me to come back or they would shoot me.
Oh my God.
That's how it was. And I've never in my life have ever been experienced anything like this. It was like a movie scene. It was like literally a movie scene.
She says her husband, an Afghan national, even begged the Taliban to let her in the airport without him, but she refused to leave him.
I was not going to leave without my husband because I knew in my heart I was never going to, step a foot back in Afghanistan once I go home. And I'm pregnant, and definitely my child is going to need a father. I'm going to need a husband by my side.
Now that the U.S. military is gone, Nasria says the Taliban are hunting Americans.
And apparently they're going door to door from now, trying to see, if anybody has a blue passport.
The State Department has told her to stay put, and they will find a way to get her out. but she gets more discouraged with each passing day.
I don't even think I'm going to be able to go home. Definitely lost of hope. If I was only 15 steps away from the airport and I was told people are going to come out of the airport to get me, so what hope am I supposed to have now?
She certainly is a brave young woman. We are hoping for her safety and that she and Americans and Afghans trapped in Afghanistan can leave soon. A few weeks ago, we brought you the story of Nasria, one of the Americans trapped in Afghanistan after U.S. evacuation efforts ended August 30th. I kept in touch with her following our report and can now share a remarkable update. She hid in a basement for nearly 3 weeks as VOA News and others in and out of government worked around the clock to help. And then a breakthrough. The State Department put her on a flight to Doha, and then the veterans group Operation Recovery bought her a business class ticket to Los Angeles. We can now report she is home safe.
Welcome back.
And you may have noticed her little baby bump. Nasria told me she went to the doctor after getting home, heard her baby's heartbeat for the first time, and was told baby is doing well. The United States is not planning to support Afghan forces with airstrikes against the Taliban once the U.S. troop withdrawal is complete. That's what General Frank McKenzie, the head of U.S. Central Command, told VOA in an exclusive interview while traveling to Europe and the Middle East. The United States forces are going to be striking the Taliban if they put Afghan forces in danger. That is continuing to go on right now, correct?
So long as we have forces in country. Those forces, as you know, are going to draw down to zero or at some point in the future. After that, any strikes that we do in Afghanistan are going to be against Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
McKenzie said future counter-terror strikes in Afghanistan will be limited to instances where enemy plans have been discovered that aim to strike America and its allies at home, as when thousands were killed on September 11, 2001.
That would be the reason for any strikes that we do in Afghanistan after we leave. It would have to be that we've uncovered someone who wants to attack the homeland of the United States, one of our allies and partners.
With just a short time until U.S. forces complete their withdrawal, retired General Joseph Votel, the former head of Central Command, told VOA that transparency with Afghan allies is key.
And I think we owe it to them to be as clear as we can possibly be so that we are planning against what it is our policy is, and they have a clear understanding of what it is that we are going to do, but also what we are not going to do.
The U.S. and NATO allies will continue to fund Afghan soldiers' salaries, help their Air Force with aircraft maintenance, and train Afghan troops. The latter two will be done outside of Afghanistan. But to military experts who fear the Afghan military will fall once U.S. troops leave, those efforts aren't enough.
Just because we leave and we say it's over, it's not over. You know, we talk about forever wars. Well, the Taliban is interested in Al-Qaeda, interested in a forever jihad, and they're going to keep fighting.
Army Specialist Christopher Horton was a sniper who was killed in an ambush in eastern Afghanistan on September 9, 2011. He was 26 years old. His widow, Jane Horton, is an advocate for fallen soldiers and the families they leave behind, known as Gold Star families. She's also worked as a senior advisor to the Afghan ambassador and the U.S. Secretary of Defense. She took me inside her own visits to Afghanistan, her husband's legacy of service and sacrifice, and what the drawdown means to her.
This is him in Afghanistan. Chris was a man of honor. When I think about Chris in times like this, I think of everything he stood for and how much he loved this country. This is, I think, the last picture we ever took together. We never thought anything would happen to him. And seeing the number plastered everywhere, 2,400 were killed, 2,400 were killed. It just blows my mind that my husband was one of 2,400 that was killed in Afghanistan. That's the funeral. And when I got that knock, I knew that this life is no longer about me. This life was about telling people about men and women that are willing to fight, bleed, and die for them, and that love them so much and love America so much that they're willing to give everything. You know, people are watching Families of the Fallen. People are afraid to approach us. As people do care about us deeply, people haven't really stopped to ask what actually happens after the knock at the door. What is the process? So just working to make sure it stays on the mind of our people in power, because my generation is at home being mom and dad to their kids. And so they don't have time to make sure that people are remembering or paying attention. And so I'm pretty relentless with it because it's not about me. And if I can make one day easier for these families, I'll do anything I can do. Here's my first trip to Afghanistan. I got to meet General Austin, no, Secretary Austin. I wanted to go to Afghanistan and I wanted to learn about the country because my husband's blood is in their soil. And General Dunford brought me for the first time, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I was so excited to go. You know, that trip really changed my life. And so, you know, throughout the years of being involved in Afghanistan and getting to know the Afghan people, I really feel like they've given me part of my heart back. And so maybe we have to leave at a certain point. Maybe we don't. I know we already did, but we can do it better than we did. So the president said, would you send your sons or daughters, you know? And I would say, we have. I would give my husband 1,000 times over for this country, and he would give his life 1,000 times over. But what keeps me up at night and what haunts me is people don't know why he died. Why did he die in Afghanistan? And if we don't know that, then we really need to ask ourselves questions as a country on the why. If my husband walked in here right now and sat by us, what would we tell him? You know, and so as this is happening and the war is over now, everyone's asking Gold Star families this. Was it worth it? You know, how do you feel? And I'm like, how dare you ask us that? How dare you ask us, was it worth it? When that's the American people's question to answer. My husband wasn't mine. When I sent him off to war, I sent him off as America's. He was all of ours. And so I shouldn't have to ponder that question all day long without my country pondering it with me. And so I asked the American people to ask, was it worth it?
A homecoming nearly 10 months in the making. Troops from the 10th Mountain Division landing on American soil after multiple delays, turning in their weapons after a historic deployment.
Just like being home, it doesn't feel real. I was talking to somebody earlier. You almost feel like somebody's going to call you up and say, okay, yep, just kidding. We got to go back. We're not done there.
Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Chris Rowe said these troops helped turn over every remaining American base in Afghanistan, from Helmand in the south to Mazar al-Sharif in the north, and then the military's hub, Bagram Airfield, before finally providing security at Kabul International Airport, helping evacuate more than 120,000 people while under constant threat.
Very hectic. Rivaled pretty much any deployment that I've been on, quite frankly, and we've got some good ones, but the uncertainty you speak of, it was very real.
Uncertainty from having to rely on the Taliban, America's enemy for 2 decades and responsible for killing thousands of U.S. troops.
Lost guys on patrols, multiple rocket attacks at bases that I've been on with soldiers. It wasn't a good feeling.
We needed them. At the end of the day, they were, that first kind of filter and providing us almost like the security outside to allow us to do our jobs.
One thing I do know about mountain soldiers, we are mountain tough.
About half of these soldiers either weren't born or don't remember the terror attacks in 2001 that started the war they ended. The soldiers of the 10th Mountain Division have felt the impact of the war on terror as much as anyone. 46 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan since 9/11/2001. Their mission flag now lowered, families sharing that first hug.
It felt like home. It felt like exactly where I've been wanting to be for over 9 months. It was amazing.
For some, 288 days felt like a lifetime.
I'm ecstatic. She was 5 months when he left, so he's missed pretty much all the firsts.
A long-awaited reunion for Aubrey and Sam Evans. Their daughter's smile says it all. Carla Babb, VOA News, Fort Drum, New York. overwhelming power, overpowered by greedy men, willing to kill for their ivory.
We've been shot at.
We are now in war.
What's at stake is the future of Gabon. If we don't beat the poachers, Gabon will go the way of CAR. We will lose our country.
In this tiny Central African nation, park rangers called eco-guards man the front lines. And the U.S. military has answered their call for help.
We not only help them preserve the wildlife, but at the same time we're disrupting criminal organizations and we're helping them develop a better future.
There's a hill here maybe, and then this is coming up. So what does that mean for the objective?
VOA is the first reporting team to embed with the U.S. military on a counter-poaching mission. We followed a small Army team to see how American training and resources are strengthening the Rangers.
In some of the parks, they already are a true paramilitary force. They're having gun battles about once a month.
This is the fight for Gabon's forest.
Pull the leaf out there. It's like asparagus. I eat everything that gorillas eat.
What's it taste like?
This tastes like it's like cucumber, I guess.
For biologist Lee White, the nation's Minister of Forest, Gabon is a paradise.
When you see elephants walking out onto the beach in Luango, and then you see a humpback whale breaching in the background, then you think to yourself, is this real?
Yeah.
But that's Gabon. That's what Gabon is like.
Gabon is home to more forest elephants than anywhere else in the world. But over the past couple of decades, they've been killed by poachers by the tens of thousands.
Tragically, we've lost about 70% of the forest elephants of Central Africa in the last 15 years. But between Gabon and northern Congo, we're the only places that are really hanging on.